Hello learners, I am Dr. Munish Kumar Bharadwaj from School of Engineering and Technology, and today I'll discuss with you Introduction to Defects. Means what are defects in buildings and building materials, and how we can deal with these defects, and what are the remedial measures and the preventive measures for these defects. The content of today's discussion include defects in general, then causes of defects, then monitoring of structures, then causes of deterioration, then defects in material and construction in general, then we will discuss about timber, and finally we will discuss about defects in iron and steel. Learning outcomes of this module are: after going through this lecture, you must be able to identify defects in general in building construction, also to describe the defects of timber, and you should be able to describe the defects of steel. So let us begin with the introduction of defects and the remedial measures. The level of civilization of any country is measured by the type and quality of structures and developmental works put up there. The construction activity is mainly in the hands of civil engineers to build structures without flaws. It should be your determination to ensure defect-free construction. Any neglect will lead to defective construction, resulting in waste of resources as well as enhanced expenditure on repair and maintenance. Because if defective construction is done, then it will require huge amount for their repair and maintenance. Then how we should manage our existing stock? There is a paradigm shift from new projects requiring large capital investment to the management of existing stock of buildings and structures. In that sense, the recession has come as a blessing to establish the importance of management tasks of inspection, assessment, maintenance, and repair. Because if these four management tasks are done properly, then we can have a good quality of construction, as well as we can repair and maintain buildings for a longer life of the structure. What are these four? These four are: inspection, means the structures or the buildings have to be inspected frequently, whether there is any damage or deterioration of the building. Then we have to assess that what deterioration or damage has done to the structure, then how we can maintain it and how we can repair it. So these are the four important management tasks. Earlier, generally structures were designed and built with little or no thought given to the long-term requirement of their future durability. Means either we were focused for a short period that we have to construct a building or a structure, but how durable it will be for a long future use, it was not considered generally. Now the view has changed and construction management is given the prominence it deserves. Because by following the principles of construction management, we can construct a good quality infrastructure with less cost, with less time, and overall expenditure certainly will be within a certain limit or range. Means the construction will be economical. And when the quality is good, you need not to go for frequent repairs. So that way also we will be saving on cost. It has now been accepted that even in concept and design, durability of structure should be kept in mind. Means that durability is not a factor which has to be considered as the time of construction only. When you are planning a building, when you are designing a building, so durability should be taken into consideration at that time also. Whether the concept and plan of a building is durable, whether the design will lead to a durable structure, these have to be considered. Now, construction management is the framework necessary to ensure a rational overall quality of any structure from conception to the end of its normal life and beyond. So you can see from that what is the role and what is the importance of construction management, that it is basically responsible for overall quality of any structure since conception to the end of its normal life. So that way construction management is a very important aspect in construction. The instances of structures lost to the ravaging effects of corrosion, erosion, damage due to overloading, etc. will decrease if not disappear altogether, if we follow the principles of construction management. Not only will this result in the saving of vast amount of expenditure on repairs, but it will also save lives and demonstrate to the public at large that construction engineers are capable of carrying out their work in professional and responsible manner. So that is the importance of following the principles of construction management. We move to inspection, assessment, maintenance and repair. These four words I told you earlier. So the aim is to avoid defects in entire construction process, starting from planning to the end of the life of the structure. And for that, we have to follow these four steps religiously. Here during this discussion, you will come to know about possible defects at all stages of the construction program, the causes that give rise to the defects and also appropriate ways for carrying out repairs. Now let us begin with assessment of present condition. That how we can assess the present condition of the building. Inspection and condition assessment are now well practiced sciences, but strength assessment based on design philosophy and theory has shown many cases to underestimate the real strength of a structure, and greater understanding is essential in this area to ensure that structures are not condemned unnecessarily, because sometimes a wrong assessment will lead to condemning a strong building or a healthy building unnecessarily, and it's a, you can say, economic loss. Assessment techniques applied in the field to determine actual working stresses also need development, not only to test our theories but also to ensure that realistic estimates are made of the future useful life of the structure. Sound strengthening techniques need to be developed and implemented in an economical manner. Now let's see what are defects and at what stages these defects come into the building. So the defects arise at all stages of the construction program, that is planning, designing, detailing, execution and maintenance. So at all stages, defects may creep into our structure if we are not careful during these different stages. The environment also plays its part to make defects. Now these structures which we have built, these are exposed to the environmental agents, and these environmental agents, when acts on the structures, these causes defects in the building itself and the building material. Now, monitoring of structures. Monitoring of structures is gaining an importance as the cost of maintenance and repairs increases dramatically due to deterioration because of overloads, air pollution, acid rain, etc. In order to guarantee the durability of structures over a long period of time, it is necessary to monitor the structures on a permanent basis. Means monitoring is very important aspect. Cracks in structures, changes in stress-strain behavior of structural elements are to be monitored using optical fiber sensors. This is one of the method or technique to monitor the cracks in the structure, changes in stress-strain behavior of the elements, structural elements. So that way we should do to monitor the behavior of the structure over the period of time. Now there are various tests to find the remaining strength and also the defects in the structure. One of the method is non-destructive tests. Non-destructive tests, as it is clear from its name, we are not going to demolish or damage any part of the structure, and without disturbing any element of the structure we are doing these tests. That way it is called as the non-destructive tests. So the procedures for various non-destructive tests have been well developed and required to be used for monitoring purpose. The maintenance cost of structures can be reduced significantly by a proper surveillance to detect defects or damages in an early stage. Means if by way of proper monitoring, if we can detect any defect or damage at early stage, then we can deal with this, we can fix that damage or defect easily and with less cost. Because at later stage it will go on increasing, and at that time the money spent will be too much, or this may also lead to a situation that where it is not repairable and we have to remove that structural element or some part of the structure to save the rest of the structure and strengthen it. By removing it means here not only removing, but we are constructing the new strong element in place of the weak element. Now, causes of deterioration. Building deterioration is dependent on number first type of structure, what type of structure is, how it was designed and detailed, means the design and detailing of that structure, then how it was constructed, means the construction method and construction techniques, then how it was maintained over a period of time, whether any maintenance work was done or not. If done, then what material and what methods were used. Then its environment, in which environment that building is located, whether it is exposed to some acidic gases or acidic environment, whether there is a lot of rain is there, or that temperature variation is too much, because all these things affect the buildings. The common causes of deterioration are similar regardless of various factors which primarily influence the degree and extent of deterioration. Causes of deterioration can be classified on the basis of materials of construction. So let us begin with the material timber. Wood is a popular construction material. Both hardwood and softwood can be used for structural purposes. In practice, most of today's carpenters use a mix of plywood, sawed natural wood, and even new wood substitutes which are available in the market. Means there are certain substitutes, wood substitutes are there which can be used in place of wood. natural wood. Plywood is available in many thicknesses and types, including water and pest-proof ply. Means the ply which is not showing any effect when they are exposed to water or there is a pest attack. Along with ply, you could use laminates like Formica, Malmica or wood veneer, which has the finish of a natural wood. Now, what are the common types of timber that we are using in structures? The most commonly used natural wood in India are teak, rosewood and cedar. Teak is most popular due to its strength, durability, grain and many kind of finishes possible with it. These are the advantages why teak is preferred. But when buying teak, you should know that there are several grades of this wood, from very poor quality which will warp or crack over time, means these defects may come into the picture, to the finest teak like Burma teak. There are variety of teaks. Now we will see the plywood and laminated boards. Because these materials are layered and bonded, plywoods can often be very strong and long lasting, even tougher than natural. So this is the advantage of plywood. Medium density fiber board, generally which we call as MDF, is one of the new wood substitutes. For the home, it can be used for doors, windows, even for paneling, floors and ceilings. An exterior grade variety of MDF is designed to withstand humidity. You can even get MDF with lamination either on one side or both. Wood substitutes can have many plus points. What are these plus points? It is durable, it is fire, termite, moisture and sound resistant. So these are the advantages. Now let us see how moisture content affects the properties of timber. Moisture content affects the properties of timber. Many defects are possible because of natural causes during the growth of itself. Means when the tree is growing, some defects may come into the picture at that time also. Now, outbreaks of attacks are nearly always due to excess moisture coming in contact with the wood. Means when the moisture is coming in contact with the wood, then lot many problems may be there. One of the problem is wet rot, and this wet rot may occur while the tree is standing, while ants or termites are also very injurious to the timber. In addition to wet rot, these are also injurious to the timber. Teak, sal and devdar withstand the attack of white ants. Now, what we can do to deal with the moisture? The answer is seasoning. What is seasoning? Seasoning is limiting the moisture content. So, here appropriate seasoning is very important to make the timber strong. Timber should be kept dry during construction. For example, the erection of wood door frames and window frames concurrently with the building of brick walls in wet weather is to negative all the benefits of season. Means if you are doing this work concurrently, that too in a wet weather, then even after doing the seasoning of the timber will be affected. The construction should be such as to protect the timber from damp during the life of the building. All timber should be protected from ground moisture by providing damp-proof coats. means moisture should not go from ground to the timber. So for that purpose, we can use damp-proof coats, where floorboards on ground floors are fixed to sleepers laid on concrete or wood blocks. A layer of asphalt or bituminous mastic should be provided in between. That way you can check the ingress of moisture to the wood or timber. Timber should be clear of influence of damp earth or damp walls and free from contact with mortar. All underfloor spaces should be well ventilated, because if proper ventilation is there, then it minimizes the presence of moisture. Deterioration is caused due to fungi, attacks of termites, borers, and marine organisms. So these are the agents which causes deterioration in timber. Now we can safeguard the timber and increase the life of timber by using preservatives. Preservatives are used to protect timber against deterioration. Most efficient means of preserving timber are good seasoning and free circulation of air. If it is there, then we can easily protect the timber. The protection against moisture is afforded by oil paints, provided that the timber is perfectly dry when first painted. Means when you are painting first time, the timber should be in dry condition. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, the filling up of the outer pores confines the moisture within it and causes rot. This is the importance, that when you are painting the timber first time, then it should be in dry condition. It should not be in wet condition, or it should not have moisture. For exposed timber, the remedy available is impregnation by substances poisonous to fungi. Means if you are using some poisonous substances, if you impregnate the timber by these poisonous substances, then you can protect the timber from fungi. These substances being either of oil or chemical type. Now let us see what are common preservatives available. Commonly used preservatives are oil type. Examples means preservatives like coal tar creosote. Then chemical type organic solvents are also used as preservatives, such as naphtha, kerosene, and white spirit. Then there are water soluble preservatives like SQ and zinc chloride. Then other type of preservatives are waterborne salt types, and in this category the most common are normally referred as copper or chromium or arsenic salt, or simply CCA, which are applied by pressure. Now inspection of timber. How you do the inspection of timber? Inspection of timber is carried out by experienced staff using number one, visual and hammer testing. Means visual inspection and hammer testing can be done to inspect the health of or the state of the timber. Then ultrasonic testing with PURL. PURL is portable ultrasonic rot locator. So with this method you can locate the rot, whether rot is there inside the timber or not. Then confirmation drill testing can be done. Then radiographic testing of splices can be done, and it can be carried out provided safety of the public is ensured, because here you are using radiation, so you must ensure while doing this test you must ensure the public safety. Then there are preservatives which are developed abroad, like in Australia through its Forestry Commission developed modern methods of preservation. There are two types of preservatives, barrier type and diffusing type. Barrier type are generally copper based oils which may be applied by brush or spray or in emulsion form, and its name comes because of the fact that it creates a barrier between the timber and the deteriorating agents. Then second is diffusing type. Then these diffusing types are generally copper or fluoro or boron gels, and they protect timber by the action of diffusion into the timber. Then in UK, two principal type of preservatives used for building components. One is the waterborne salt type. These are the formulations based on solution of copper sulfate, sodium dichromate and arsenic pentoxide. These are applied by pressure. Other type is organic solvent based types. Solutions consist of one or more organic fungicides in an organic solvent such as white spirit or a more refined solvent can be used. Common fungicides are pentachlorophenol, tributyl tinoxide, then zinc naphthenate, then pentachlorophenol laureate. These are the common fungicides which are used to protect timber. Now, while doing preservation, one has to be very careful. An important safety aspect in connection with use of preservatives must be noted. And what is that? That preservatives are toxic and must be treated with care during storage and their application. Some of the preservatives are flammable until the solvent has evaporated, because till the solvent has not evaporated, these are flammable because that solvent is flammable basically. But after the evaporation of the solvent, the flammability of timber is not increased compared with the untreated timber, because untreated timber itself is flammable. So that way it ensures that after application of these preservatives, the flammability of timber is not increased. Now let us see another material. Another material is here iron or steel. As you know that steel is manufactured by several processes, and the most important are Bessemer process and open hearth process. The steel thus made is converted into steel objects and sections by the process of casting, rolling, forging or processing. Various objects are formed or created from steel. The carbon content in the steel determines the properties of various steel like cast iron, wrought iron, hard steel, spring steel. So there the property of these different steels are different, and to a great extent these properties are affected by the carbon content in the steel. Now, what are the quality tests for steel? The usual tests for steel are cold band field test for bars, another one is tensile test, another one is compression test, then shearing test, then creep test, then fatigue test, then impact or shock test, then hardness test. And these tests give an idea of properties of the steel. Now let us see what are alloys. Now we will be focusing here different alloys and basically the steel alloys. Alloying elements like nickel, vanadium, chromium, carbon, manganese, silicon, tungsten, copper, etc. are used to manufacture various improved types with specific properties like chrome steel, chrome nickel steel, stainless steel, tool steel, high purity steel. So these are steel alloys. Now let us see what are the defects in steel reinforcement. And the most important defect in steel reinforcement is corrosion. Corrosion is the most important defect in reinforcing steel. The reinforcing steel is surrounded by concrete, which provides a passive environment for steel. Fresh concrete is highly alkaline with a pH between 12 and 13. In this alkaline environment, the thin film of iron oxide that is usually present at the surface of the metal is established into a protective passive film. This passive film protects the reinforcing steel against corrosion. In addition, well-cured concrete of low water-cement ratio has low permeability, which minimizes penetration of corrosion-inducing solutions. The low permeability also increases the electrical resistivity of the concrete, which assists in reducing the rate of corrosion by retarding flow of electrical currents that accompany electrochemical corrosion. Corrosion of reinforcing steel is electrochemical degradation of steel. It occurs whenever the protective positive film is destroyed by either carbonation or by presence of more than threshold concentration of chloride ions at the steel surface in the presence of oxygen and moisture. Carbonation is the result of the reaction of carbon dioxide and other acidic gases in the air and the alkaline constituents of cement paste. As a result, the alkalinity of concrete, means the pH generally we measure, is reduced and the steel loses its protective film. Chloride ions can also penetrate the protective passive film with an accompanying shift in steel potential and subject to the steel to the action of oxygen and moisture, resulting in corrosion. So that way also that steel corrosion may occur. Once the protective oxide film has been impaired and in the presence of oxygen and moisture, corrosion of steel will proceed. There are two mechanisms in steel corrosion. One is electrochemical corrosion and another one is galvanic corrosion. In marine environment, chlorides will permeate the concrete by absorption, capillary or through cracks. These chlorides in presence of oxygen and moisture may provide an acidic pH in an otherwise alkaline environment. Because we saw that in concrete the environment is alkaline, but here these chloride is causing the acidic pH. The change in pH results in an electrochemical corrosion cell, which with oxygen and moisture accelerates attack on the reinforcing steel. Corrosion products from the attacked steel create expansive forces, means expansion takes place. And why this takes place? Because the volume of a steel increases 6 times on corrosion. So that way it expands within the concrete and causing the concrete to fall and crumble. As the steel is further exposed to oxygen, because when the cracks have come into the picture, then steel is further exposed to oxygen and it corrodes more and increases the deterioration of concrete in a progressive manner. In general, the electrochemical corrosion triggers galvanic corrosion, by exposing the reinforcing steel to water. Corrosion of reinforcing steel is possible during storage also when it is exposed to nature. Deterioration is possible during transport also. Defects may be there because of the manufacturing processes, means defects during the manufacture also may be there. Then preventive measures have been in use after a study of various aspects involved, and one is coatings to prevent corrosion have also been involved, means you can provide coating to that. Best way of tackling corrosion of reinforcing steel in concrete is by use of quality concrete with minimum water cement ratio and ensuring full compaction to prevent entry of moisture. Because if you are able to prevent entry of moisture, then you can protect the reinforcing steel from corrosion. The construction practices and details like cover of concrete, curing, etc. are well established means to tackle the problem concerning corrosion. The deterioration due to corrosion triggers deterioration in surrounding concrete. Although both materials have separate deterioration mechanism, the deterioration of one affects the other. So, in this lecture, we discussed many things about the defects and in general, and then about the two materials, timber and steel. I hope you must have enjoyed it. Next, we will discuss another materials and defects in these materials. Thank you.